attendees. I just want to say thank you, everyone. I know this is Monday morning, 11:30. It's not the easiest time to go ahead and set up for a webinar, but we wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to go ahead and show everybody Rancho La Paz and have the opportunity to show people what's going on in the Wormery and what we're doing over there. So before we start, a couple additional people have joined us. I'd just like to go over the fact that everybody is currently on mute. At the end of the 20 minutes after Dr. Dieter gives his lesson on the Wormery, we'll go ahead and unmute it and ask for additional questions. If you have a question during the actual presentation, please go ahead and use the chat bar on the side and put your question in, and one of the Sanandi team members will go ahead and answer the question there, or we'll direct you with when we're going to address it. This is part 3 of our webinar series. It's today is a very special webinar. This is Salutogenisis, the second, Soil to the Soul. And we're very proud that we're actually conducting this webinar from the Wormery, directly from Rancho La Paz, Mexico, in Sanandi, where we have some teammates. Dr. Dieter and Antonio, our CEO, are there right now. So why don't we go ahead and without further ado, let's take it away. And Antonio. All right. There he is.
Oh, Kevin. Hola,
fantastic.
So can you see me correctly?
You look perfect.
Okay. Hello. Pues, here we are in Rancho La Paz. Beautiful morning, 10:30 in the morning. And we like to start this follow-up of salutogenesis. We talked last time that salutogenesis is not just the absence of disease, but it's wholeness of health. And when we started here years ago, we started to recover the soil, because the soil destruction in our modern agriculture is the one way in how we start destroying the health of all organisms of the planet, including us. So what you see on the back here is our Wormery. There we have our earth farm, where we have hundreds of thousands of earthworms working and creating soil again. This land was destroyed 20 years ago with a monoculture of potato with lots of toxins. So we had to rebuild the soil. And for this, we created this, we call it the palace for our earthworms. And I will show to you this production of humus and explain a little bit why it is so important to create health from the soil upwards to the health of human beings. Come, I show you. So here we are in this big place where we have 4 big beds where we cultivate the earthworm. So as you can see, here the process starts. The earthworm, one of the most important organisms, because it transforms the dead organic matter into life again, into life-giving properties. So it is not just about substances, but it's a wholeness which is created to one being, the earthworm, which evolved 210 million years ago in the Triassic period of our Earth evolution. And it is the most amazing animal to see how it can transform death and brings it to life again with life-giving properties, which we call it the mother of all properties of this orchestra of new properties, which is the humus. So this is a humus fabric, which is silently working 24 hours a day. And here you can see how they start forming the earth, the organic matter into a perfect substance, which is called the humus. Humus is a state of perfection, which gives the plants a perfect pH, because normally when they starts decomposing, which is all the leaves and all the compost which starts decomposing by first the bacteria, it creates an acidic milieu. And after this acidic milieu comes to a point, this being the the earthworm, can you see it here? This one here, this big guy, he starts swallowing this death matter and enriches it. Because the most fascinating thing about this worm is it is a total digestive tract. Through the digestive tract at the beginning, it has a mouth, and this mouth swallows all this death matter in bacteria and fungi and transform it in an amazing digestive system. And in this digestive system, it creates an enrichment of the substance. For example, it takes one molecule of calcium and it excretes 5 molecules of calcium. So the acidity of the soil becomes balanced by pH 7, which is the perfect balance. And it takes, for example, 1 molecule of nitrogen and gives back 5 molecules of nitrogen. It takes 1 molecule of phosphor and gives 7 molecules of phosphor back. So it is a great alchemist. And this alchemist was respected all over in all our cultures, starting with the old Egypt culture, where it was a god and who trafficked with earthworms or killed the rainworm was a death penalty. Because all our civilization started in the banks of rivers, where the earthworm created through millions of years of evolution this soil. And this soil was the start of civilization for all. And as we say today, the starting point of health in the whole system. Where humus-rich soil exists, there is the possibility of health for all as the living beings. So they call it a god. The old Chinese, they said, very wise word, they said, watch the earthworm, miss the eclipse, miss the stars and all the fantasy, watch the earthworm, because the work the earthworm does is incredible. And Aristotle said it is the intestine of the earth. And it's a very beautiful analogy, because the intestine transforms. And as I said, it transforms and enriches. And it's a resurrector of that matter into living, giving properties of humus. So this is the process. Here we start. And then when it finishes, approximately 6 months after, we create approximately 70 centimeters pure humus. And this is black, beautiful substance, which does not smell, which has a very neutral, earthy smell. And here, in just this handful, you have 8 billion bacteria, more bacteria in here than human beings on planet Earth. This is the context where these organisms live and are enriched through the action of this wonderful being, the earthworm, which is the intestine of the earth. Once this is completed, this has all the nutrients and all the properties a plant needs to start its healthy life. Because from biodynamic or a biological perspective, the starting point is the most important. It's like with a baby. If it gets breast milk of good quality, the baby has a totally different future. If a plant gets 8 billion bacteria, fungi, nematodes, rainworms, everything in here, he gets a package of nutrition, which is going to create a very good starting point. That's why we say humus is the breast of the plant and of all evolution. Because where humus is, there is a health possibility. That's why we say this is the best way to start a salutogenic process. Healing the, giving the soil back life in the form of bacteria, in black carbon concentrated substance, which is an orchestra, a symphony. And in this symphony, the director of the symphony is the earthworm. So that's why we really create a perfect environment so we can create like 10 tons of it a year. And these 10 tons go out to all our plants, and all our plants get this starting point so they can evolve healthy. And with the combination of what comes from the atmosphere, the light, and what comes from beneath, in this beautiful combination, we can create a very healthy plant, or in this case, medicinal plant, which has all the substances it needs to start. It gets a very beautiful light from 2,500 meters of altitude where we are. And in this combination, we create a very health-giving plant, which many health properties, which can support us and help us in ill health and to reestablish our health again. So this is a basic introduction. What is the wormery and why it is so important for the starting of salutogenesis, of the generation of health in the whole system, because health cannot be just seen as just isolated from any aspect of life. Health is a continuum from the soil through the vegetables, to the ecosystem, and finally reaching the human being. If we destroy the mother of everything, everything else starts crumbling down, and our ill health is going to be noticed more and more. So to reestablish our health, we need to see in the soil the main start to reestablish health. And Aristotle said that the rainworm is the intestine of the earth. And this is a beautiful analogy, because if we see what is our intestine is a transformer of what we eat. And much of our immune system, 70% of our immune system, depends of our digestive system. So humus, what we eat, if it comes from humus-rich foods, our microbiome, which is the most important symphony we have internally, this is just internalized humus. We have 9 times more bacteria in our gut than our cells in our body. So we have to nourish our intestines and to heal our intestines. And we can take a very nice analogy in how nature does it and see how we can nourish our internal ecosystem, which are the hundreds of billions of bacteria, which have health-giving properties in all ways, not only in our immune system, but they can help us even to think correctly, to sleep correctly, to breathe correctly. So to understand the analogy of the health of the earth, how ecosystems work, and see each other as a part of an ecosystem. And the moment we respect this ecosystem and we start to understand it correctly, we will see that all composition of the ecosystem are part of us. We have internalized this ecosystem inside, and we need the outside to nourish our inside. So to create health, we really, really need to take care of our soil, which has been eroded in an unseen scale in the last 3-4 decades. So the main point was today to speak a little bit about this wonderful substance, which is humus, and related to the living properties, the billions of bacteria which are in here are also inside in our gut. And when we cultivate, because agriculture is cultivating, we cultivate these bacteria, we give them prebiotics, we feed them, in the moment we do the same inside, we can aspire to have a better health. And when we stop destroying our mother of all mothers, which is our soil, slowly we can regain our health. So this was the main point I wanted to talk to you. And I don't know if you have any question, because I'm sure there are many questions in such a fascinating topic, where the big director of this orchestra is the earthworm.
Excellent. I'll start off with a question before we open it up, the channel. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Dieter. My question is prebiotics. You said we feed the earthworms prebiotics. Is that the same prebiotics that us humans would consume as well, or is that a different variation?
Yeah, these are substances which come the fiber of different vegetables, no, or from the vegetation. This fiber, in the moment when the fiber completes its cycle, it has different substances which called lignins, and these lignins, they feed the microbiome in the compost and the earthworm at the end. For us, it's the same. If we have a strong microbiome, it needs to be nourished basically to a very good vegetarian, whole food, plant-based diet. It needs to be nourished by good food, and it has also a very big effect, our emotional, our mental part on the microbiome. But the most important thing is how to nourish it. It has to be nourished to fiber-rich foods. Where the fiber is rich, all the vegetables are rich. Chicory is especially rich to nourish our microbiome. One of the nice medicinal plant seeds, which are very, very fortifying for our microbiome, is chia seeds, flax seeds, which are have a high content in lignin. And this lignin, it gets used by our microbiome to start to replicate itself and to create its own potential. So that's very, very important. And there are also a lot of foods which diminish the vitality of our microbiome, which has all the processed, denaturalized food we eat today. So we need to go back to whole food, plant-based diet. And this slowly, by the digestion of this bacteria, they start creating an ambiente, ¿cómo se dice ambiente?
Environment.
An environment, a healthy environment, which slowly starts invigorating our immune system, our digestive processes, our enzymatic processes, so we can transform and digest what we eat correctly through the help of our microbiome. Hello? Kevin?
Yes, we'd like to go ahead and open up the floor now for additional questions from any of the participants. While the questions are coming into the chat box, I'll go ahead and shoot another question to you. In the previous webinar, we talked about the interaction, or one of the most important interactions between planet Earth and humans is the bacteria, is that microbiome. How do bacteria communicate? I mean, that might be a fully loaded question, but I mean, how is that? Is that the balance of the bacteria? What comes in it? The different strains? I mean, how exactly would you?
That's a mystery today still.
Okay.
We talk about, for example, of these 8 billion bacteria which move in there. We know a fraction of them by name, but we don't know even their function. The same is with us. That's why in our epigenetics, which is our microbiome, it is very poorly understood, and we know just a fraction of it. But the most important thing is that all bacteria, which are the next stage of evolution after our geological age, bacteria started transforming minerals, and they created the first layer so that evolution could come to what we see today. But these bacteria are feeling beings which communicate. So they are not just, as we see through Darwin's view, they're just the stronger eats the weaker. They are it's a communicating web. And this web is as such a complicated, much more complicated than all the stars in the universe and all the galaxies. What happens just in a little bit of Earth? How do they communicate? Who makes check and balance? One big check and balance is, of course, the earthworm. But between the bacteria and the fungi, the fungi, there is a relationship. And there's always a check and balance. But this check and balance is a very creative check and balance because it creates layers of evolution which permit new states of more awareness, of more intelligence in all our ecosystem.
There we go.
Tengo uno de Maggie. Pregunta, how did you oil when it was started?
Bueno, repeat it. There's a question, one of you, that how can you regenerate the soil at the beginning? It took us 3 or 4 years. Heavy herbicide.
It's cutting out though.
The stability of the soil. And one thing we have to do for that is we put lots of green manure, compost, and finally the earthworm. And so we are established after 3 to 4 years, a totally eroded and full of pesticides and soil. We created again balance very slowly, of course. And today we have more than 40, 50 centimeters of humus again. And so the main issue in a farming or in a healthy farming methods and biological farming is that we can regain the microbiome of the soil locally. That's why we have woods around us. And we took from this microbiome of the woods, again, we cultivated it, we put it in compost, and we gave it slowly back to the earth. And then we brought it into the earth and grew more and more plants. And slowly, slowly, the balance started again to arrive. And one thing, one of the wonders of when you do this type of agriculture, you get more and more biodiversity. The bacteria come back, there come rainworms. We have more than 6,000 types of rainworms worldwide. This one here we have is a red Californian, but there are many other types of rainworms. And life comes back slowly, and butterflies come back, different animals, birds come back, lots of birds come back, and you can see that when you start with the soil and give back the microbiome to the soil, it becomes like an island of attraction for life. And the biodiversity starts increasing. So every year we see new butterflies, we see new bugs, and that's the important part of regenerating through soil, through humus.
Otra pregunta es, ¿cómo recomiendas para el town city farmer to begin to establish a wormery in a small scale urban setting?
Mm-hmm. In an urban scale?
Is there a step-by-step manual?
No. There are many step-by-step manuals, and you can have small boxes. They sell it as worm farms, but you just need to buy a bunch of worms and use all your vegetables, hopefully organic all, and all your leftovers of the home can be mixed. If you can mix it with a little bit of grain, so it has air in it. So you put layers of it, and you put a bunch of these earthworms into the composition matter, which should not be too humid. 50% humidity would be the idea. And then the earthworm is going to transform all of your leftovers you have at home: bread, rice, lentils, salads, tomatoes. Just don't put citrus fruits in it. and the rainworm is going to eat. And the only thing you have to do is giving them food from above, and you give them always a layer, and the rainworm is going to transform the lower part, and then it's going to immigrate up, and it's going to transform and digest the upper part. And you will not have any putrefaction if it's well done. So it should not be smelly. And when the humus, the black earth is finished, then you can smell, and it is a very good smell. It has no putrefaction in it, and then you know your earth is okay. So you can take out from the lower layers and give it to your plants, and you will see what a different atmosphere you create just by changing the soil. You can help this process with some microbiome called effective microorganisms, which come originally from Japan and are commercialized everywhere today, which have a very good different types of bacteria, which can help to reestablish the local microbiome again.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Dieter. Last question I wanted to ask is, how often do we monitor the soil? I mean, is there just a visual test that we can do and say, hey, yep, earthworms are thriving, or do we actually run analysis of our soil often at Rancho La Paz?
We have run analysis of this soil here, of the earth, and it's very, very rich. It has lots of potassium, it has lots of phosphor, which in our land here in the altitude in Mexico, it's poor in phosphor. So it gives us very much good back the phosphor. So we have made analysis, chemical analysis. So it should be a good starting point because of the life it has. In this life, when it comes in contact with the mineral part of the geologic and the stones in the land, they start digesting all the minerals and give the plant minerals. So it's not rich in all minerals, but you can enrich it by powder of stone, and this is what we do to give it even stronger. But the most important thing is it gives life. It transforms that death matter and gives it life. So that's why such a big a transmuter of death to life again. And, the rest, the microbiome and our cultures, our big cultures, they organize this perfectly, and the plant just takes out what it needs. So we take analysis from this, and then we make 2 times a year an analysis of our land, chemical analysis, analytic, to see how good is our pH, how much phosphor, how much potassium, how much nitrogen, how much nitrites we have, etc. And so we try to keep it very well balanced so the plant has a good start and can evolve. And as strong its earth is, its soil is, as its alive it is, as healthy it is, the plant does need little attention because it has all the substrate it needs to grow and to have its immune system to reject pathogens away. So we don't use pesticides, even organic ones. We don't even use anything from outside. And as we told, I think I told it last time when we talked about salutogenesis, a farm is an organism. And an organism is as healthy as it consumes energy from outside. So it's the same thing with a human being. A human being is as healthy as little doctors and hospitals and he needs from outside, even energy consumption. We do everything by solar energy. Our water is born here. So what we try from the biodynamic perspective from Rudolf Steiner is to create an organism which entertains itself and has a durable fertility in its belly, I will say. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So I think it would be safe to say that it's our belief that by using these methods, and these are methods that all of us can use all around the world. This will ensure that we are growing and cultivating more nutritious foods, herbs, and plants, correct?
For sure, but it's much more than that. No, it's attracting carbon, CO2 from the atmosphere, binding into the earth. It brings in to movement where we don't have any life anymore, because we don't have this earth where we cultivate today. The Midwest United States does not have humus. 500 years ago, it had 1 meter of humus. Today, the whole humus is taken away by the Mississippi. And today you don't have this living, giving property. So the harvest you have, it's a very poor harvest. And if it's like the same, if you have a child which is not correctly nourished, it gets attacked by viruses, by bacteria. A plant is exactly the same. When you are in the Midwest or here in Mexico, in the south of Mexico, where we create our food, it is so poor of life that the plant hardly grows, and it just is fed by chemicals, sodium, potassium, phosphor, and this makes the plant very susceptible. So it needs a lot of pesticides because it is attacked by so many organisms and viruses and bacteria. So the most important thing is that you create an environment which gives health potentiality again, which gives the potential of evolution. And the evolution style, the richer the soil, the more humus you have, the more potential you have to create health in the whole ecosystem, of course, including us as human beings.
I think that was the most perfect way to end today's webinar. And thank you very much, Dr. Dieter. Did you have anything else you'd like to add?
Antonio is asking me, what can we do to protect our microbiome? I say, eat a good whole food plant-based diet, lots of good grains, no processed foods, and use every day a little bit of flaxseed, chia seeds, chicory root, which nourishes honey, which nourishes your microbiome and gets you healthier because of what goes in through your mouth.
Thank you for that. So before we end, I'd just like to let everyone know webinar 4 in October, which will be the last part of Salutogenisis. We already listed the sign up page. So if everyone can please go ahead and sign up for October's. And then I would like to say thank you again to Dr. Dieter, and thank you everyone for taking the time out of a busy Monday morning to learn more about Salutogenesis and how we can all better shape the world that we all live in, and also our personal views. And then the last thing I'd like to say, directly from the words of our very own Dr. Dieter, consciousness is the manifestation of individual potentiality. That's a very strong statement, and I say that to myself every day. So I hope all of you get as much as I do from those words.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Goodbye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Take care.